Today we are talking all things eyeliner. I'm going to be bringing you some of my pro tips and tricks for ways for you to get the most out of your eyeliner, whether it's for a dramatic night out on the town like this look, or an everyday affair. So stick around and I'm going to show you 3 of my favorite ways to apply eyeliner and 3 of my favorite ways to teach eyeliner, starting with eyeshadow for my true newbies, gel, which is my preferred method of application, and liquid, which is what you see here, which is definitely the most dramatic look for a night out on the town. I'm Allie Elizabeth, and I'm a pro hair and makeup artist here in Los Angeles, California. I've been a pro hair and makeup artist for over 15 years, and I've worked with models, musicians, actors, athletes, you name it, I've done it all. So I started this channel to hopefully share some of that knowledge with you guys along the way and answer any questions that you all may have. So without further ado, let's get into eyeliner. So we're going to start today with the most beginner-friendly type of eyeliner that one can do, which is to line your eyes with eyeshadow. I'm going to show you 4 of the brushes that I would normally use for this technique, depending on how smoky or precise you want it. I'm gonna show you with the angled brushes in particular today. So these 2, and why these work great for lining with shadow, and not so great for lining with a gel, cream, or liquid, which a lot of people will tell you they use these for that, but in my opinion, the bristles get really frayed and splayed out, so it gets really hard to keep a really crisp, precise line with these types of brushes when you're using gels and or liquids. So for this first look, I'm going to show you with shadow and my angled brush. I believe it's a 256 from MAC. I have had this eyeshadow brush for probably 20 years, you guys. This is like tried and true OG. Probably could do with getting a new one. You can see the bristles are definitely a little splayed, but for what we're doing, it's still going to work, and you are going to see why right now. So I'm just using my Viseart palette. What is this? The Grande Pro 1X, which I cannot recommend this enough for makeup artists and everyday. Honestly, this is just a really great neutrals palette. But for now, we're just gonna go, I'm not even gonna go with the darkest black. I'm just gonna start with this kind of semi-black. So the main thing to remember here is really pretty standard for eyeliner in general. You'll hear people talk about it a lot with hooded eye tutorials, but it's really a good rule of thumb for any and all eye shapes is to keep your eye open when you're figuring out the placement of where you want your liner to live. So for now, I am just going to come right at the edge. You can see I just made a little tiny mark, but right at the edge of my lower lash line where it meets my upper. And because this is a shadow, we're gonna just basically stamp it. And then when I close my eye, I'm gonna bring that in here. I have a little too much product on the brush. You do wanna make sure that you are tapping off your excess with this so that you don't end up getting that fallout like I just got there. Teaching you guys what not to do right off the jump. So from the center of the eye, I'm just kind of pressing this in. And then I'm going to come back to, because obviously this isn't very clean, back to where we started. Connect that line, and then the same thing as we'll do later with the gel. Just kind of extend that line out. Now again, you can see it. This brush is not the smoothest, so I'm not getting the sharpest pointed line here that I want. But see how this is kind of a swoop, which looks a little funny? What we're going to do is we're going to connect this line back in straight over to my eye. This is a great rule of thumb for all eye shapes because I do think eyeliner tends to look better the more straight it is versus that curved look. It's very stylistic. So again, we're just going to connect this back in, and you can see I'm getting that little divot. That's okay, because we're working with your own individual eye shape here. So this is gonna look a little different on everybody, particularly if you do have smaller and or more hooded eyes. If you have a bit more lid space, it's usually a little easier to connect this all without having to break it up. So here, if I take my eyeliner and I just go straight out, this is going to look much softer. This is great with a smoky eye too, because we can really blend this out. So what I'm going to do is take this pencil brush. This is a number 3 by Rèphr. I talk about these all the time. I love this line. See the tip there. And I'm just going to blend with a gel. I'm going to keep this really nice and soft. Nothing too harsh. So I'm going to blend into that lash line as well. Almost like a different way to do a smoky eye without too much work, honestly. Really simple. you can see what that's doing to my eye shape. And then with this same brush, I can also bring that down underneath my eye. And I didn't even add any product to this brush. I'm just working again with what's already there. Just keep it really nice and soft. And this is a little bit more dramatic, but just so you guys can see what that looks like. So you get the general idea. And this would work. I mean, we could do an eyeshadow look with this. You could throw some shimmer on the lid. There's a lot of different ways to go about this. This is just one option. So on this eye, I'm gonna show you the same thing. We're gonna stick with the eyeshadow for a minute, so bear with me. We are going to take that same color of shadow with a much smaller brush. And I'm gonna do the same thing, but I am gonna start with that product here at the lash line and just try to keep this oh so tight, because I want this to be really, really subtle, not quite as dramatic as the other side. So I'm just kind of, like I did before, just like stamping a brush along my lash line, and then when we get to the outside here, my eye open, I'm just gonna create that tiniest little bit of a wing. You could wet this too if you really want it to be a little less soft. You could wet the brush. You can see with this tinier, thinner angle brush, I'm able to get a little bit more controlled, smaller wing. But so you can see that kind of soft little fleck versus slightly more dramatic. And these are both simply just done with eyeshadow, which I always recommend this to people. If you are new to makeup, new to playing around with graphic liner in particular, it's always a really good idea to start with eyeliner. Eyeliner. It's always a really good idea to start with eyeshadow because you just have a little bit more control, and it's also much, much easier to correct this if you make a mistake, because you can simply wipe it off with a Q-tip and some Bioderma or a makeup wipe or even a little concealer, and we can really correct this. Speaking of concealer, so with another old 263, which again, I've had these for so long, you guys, but I love them. Some of the OG MAC brushes will never come out of my kit. They will be there until I die, I would imagine. So I just put a little bit of, this is Kosas concealer, but really any concealer that you want, and I'm just gonna come right underneath that wing and just make it super sharp just by carving out with a little bit of concealer. Let's see what that did to the point of this wing. And same thing on this side. I'm just gonna make it a slightly harder edge. This side is a really, really simple, everyday, going to the office, going to run errands, you just want a little something extra. This is a really great way to do that with just that tiniest little fleck of eyeshadow. Same over here. I also think for most people, eyeshadow wears pretty well throughout the day. So it's a good alternative to liquids and gels and creams, but I know that's what you really came for, so we are gonna move on to tight lining and lining your waterline, and then we will move on to a gel liner, and lastly liquid, so that we can cover all the bases of a good graphic liner today. So before I move on to our next gel liner, I'm just gonna mention this Bioderma eye makeup remover. This is what I use in my kit, and I will say that all micellar waters are not created equal. I don't know what the actual ingredient is, but I know I tried the Garnier micellar water, and there are a lot of additives in that actually burn. They're not very comfortable, and they also don't remove the eye makeup quite as well. Whereas this Bioderma really does just take everything right off, and it is so gentle on the skin. I am not sponsored by Bioderma. If they would like to sponsor me, I'm open, guys, but I'm not sponsored. I just really, truly use this stuff on the daily for my job and my kit, so I just wanted to give a quick shout out. You can see how easy that was. I mean, granted, this is just eyeshadow, so it's nothing too crazy, but it's just gonna pull that right off for us so we can move on to the next step. So next we're gonna talk about tight lining, and I get asked about this all the time, maybe the most out of anything. This and eyeliner for hooded eyes, which hopefully we're gonna somewhat cover in this as well. Basically, tight lining, all that means is that you are lining the inner upper lid of your eye. This is lining your waterline on the bottom, and this is tight lining when you line this at the top. So tight lining just really defines your lash line more than anything. It's gonna really make this pop. You can do it on its own for a more natural everyday look, a little bit less dramatic. And so I'm just gonna show you two ways of doing it. I always recommend doing this with a longer wearing pencil or gel. I really like the Aqua Resist color pencil from Bakeup Forever. This one works really well for me. You could do it with a gel liner as well, like MAC's Blacktrack fluid liner, but some people are a little more uncomfortable with having a brush stuck in their eye versus a pencil. It depends. If you're doing this on yourself, it's whatever you're comfortable with. If you're doing this on your clients, it's whatever your clients are comfortable with. So without further ado, this is gonna be kind of tricky to show you guys. I've never tried to do this on camera, so I'm gonna do the best I can here and hopefully you can see what I'm doing. But first, for this eye, I'm just gonna do it with the pencil directly. To me, this is the easiest way to do it. I know some people prefer to use a brush, so I'm gonna show you both ways, but this is how I'm going to do it to start, and hopefully you can see. So I just lift the eye ever so slightly. You don't wanna ever pull too hard on your eyes if you can help it. You technically also don't have to do this. When I'm doing it to myself, a lot of the time I just look down and I line without tugging, but so that you guys can see what I'm doing, I'm gonna lift my eye up a little here just so that you can see where I'm going in. It actually tickles really badly when I do it this way. And then I'm gonna have to try to look down. There you go. That was pretty easy. So can you see the difference now just from this eye to this eye with one tight lined and the other not? It's very, very subtle, but it is giving just a little bit more oomph at that lash line. If I had mascara on, I think you'd really see it too, because it really helps to connect the mascara so you don't get any breakthroughs here from seeing that. So on this side, I'm gonna use the same pencil, but I'm gonna do it with this tiny, tiny brush. Also from Rèphr, this teeny, tiny little baby. I love this little thing. It's the number 29, also from Rèphr. Most of my brushes are Rèphr or MAC these days, with some Morphe tossed in. So I'm just taking a little bit of that pencil on my brush. And same as we did with the pencil, I'm just gonna push that in right along that lash line. Oops. This is hard to do on camera. I swear this is easier to do on yourself than it is to watch me do this on camera. It's really tricky to try to navigate the mirrors and the camera and have you see correctly, but hopefully you guys can see what that's doing. It's just adding a little bit of dramatic effect right there, again at the lash line. And if we wanted this to be even more dramatic, we could go ahead and line the bottom waterline. People are 50-50 on this. I think technically trend-wise, it's a little more old school unless you're doing a really heavy smoky eye. Some people just prefer it. I actually really like it. I line my waterline on a pretty regular basis. But for today, I'm just gonna show you the top because like this is where I get the most questions about tight lining. And that's all it is. It's really simple. I think it's become this weird myth and it's super simple. So next we're gonna move on to gel eyeliner. The gel eyeliner has been one of my favorite ways to do eyeliner since I started doing makeup over 15 years ago. So this is tried and true for me. Anyone who ever worked for MAC or Makeup Forever or any of those lines probably has dabbled in gel as well, because liquids didn't used to be quite what they are today and the felt tip pens didn't used to exist. So I always carry MAC's Blacktrack eyeliner in my kit when they're not sold out of it. They had some supply chain issues earlier this year. I always carried Dipbrown, also from MAC, which is a great liner. I use this a ton commercially. I use it a lot on blondes. I use this a lot. Just anytime I want something to be slightly less dramatic, I use this a lot. And then lastly, I carry Inglot's gel eyeliner. This doesn't actually say a color. 77? I don't know. I don't do as much with Inglot, but I also carry this, and I will tell you why I carry two black gels. The Inglot gel is much blacker. This is intense. The MAC liner is, in my opinion, is much easier to work with. The Inglot tends to go on almost more like a liquid, so you have to work really fast with this stuff, or when you open your eye, it will actually transfer up above, especially if your skin touches. So if you're just starting out, again, I really like the MAC liners a little bit better, but anything will suffice. Inglot, I think Maybelline actually makes a really great ink liner, so you have a lot of options in the gel family. So for our purposes today, I'm just gonna take a little bit of this Blacktrack liner out on a spatula. So a gel liner, like I mentioned earlier with the shadows, some people prefer an angled brush, some people prefer more of a paintbrush style. I really like a thin tipped brush to do eyeliner. It's easier for me. It's a little bit easier to have to control, and I don't have to worry about the individual stray brush hairs with the angle brushes that leave like that extra little line. I'm just gonna take a little bit of that black here and just coat it all the way around like brush. So this is going to be very similar to what you saw with the shadow. Same thing, I'm going to keep my eye open and I just want to sketch starting right at my bottom, like where the underside of my eye meets the top. I want to start right at that point and just extend out. Just sketching that line out so that I'm connecting to the bottom, not from the top, to the bottom. And then I'm going to look down and start this line here. I'm going to fill that in. Just staying as close to my lash line as possible. So the same as before, I want this to be a more aerodynamic straight wing. So I'm just going to sketch that back in. So you can see, this is again where I talked about the hood earlier. When I close my eye, I'm gonna have that little dip. Now this next part is totally personal preference, because for me, I actually don't mind having the little, some people call it like a C shape here. So you could come in and just connect this down. Make sure this is nice and filled in. Connect that down and around and keep this really thin version of the line. Now that C shape that you're getting doesn't really matter because most people are looking at me with my eyes open. Very few people are looking at me when I'm looking down. So you're only gonna see that when my eye is fully closed. Even when I look down, it's not as dramatic as when my eye is closed. So I'll leave it up to you. I'll show you the alternative here in a second. I'm just going to connect this first though. Same as before, I'm just almost laying the brush on its side and just tapping it in. I want this to be so thin. Gel is my tried and true favorite. I like liquid, but I still come back to gel. So I'm gonna try and look over here for a second and just get that inner really connected. So you can see that. You guys can see I got a little underneath here. And for this look, I just don't really want that. So I'm just gonna take a little Bioderma, same as before, on a tiny little Q-tip. Just take that off. Now Bioderma is so gentle, you can put it right in there and it's not going to irritate your eye, which is another reason why it is so great. The dry side, just thread it off. That's for another look when we get down below. Okay, so we could leave it like this with the slightly C, or if you like a more dramatic, more bold liner look, then what you can also do is come from where we've reconnected here. I'm gonna clean this up too. This is what happens with eyeliner. You play with it too much and then you had it right and then you mess it up and then it's a whole thing. But actually I'm gonna leave this mistake because I can show you another trick. But before I do that, so you can just take this here and connect it straight out like that, just so you get a fatter, slightly more bold liner on the outside. So I usually like a more simple, natural look. So for me, I actually liked it better before, but that's okay. All right, so there's a couple ways we could fix what I've done here. One, you could use the Bioderma like I showed you before with a Q-tip, just clean that right up. Two, take your concealer. For three, this is my favorite hack. I actually have a short on this. I can link it in the description below. You can take MAC's Fast Response Eye Cream, really probably any silicone blend eye cream, but I've always done it with this one. Just gonna squeeze a little bit out on the back of my hand here. I'm gonna use that same 263 from earlier, and I'm just picking up a little bit of that Fast Response Eye Cream, and I'm gonna just right underneath this, just clean up this wing. I learned this from one of my trainers back in the day when I still worked for MAC. This This is like a little insider hack, but this works every time just like a magic eraser. It will work with liquid liner too, but it really works well with gel. And this is a great way to get just like that super sharp, super crisp eyeliner winged look. You can see what that did with just a little bit of product. And then I'm just gonna take a little bit of concealer like we did before and just come right in underneath and right over the top and just clean that up even more. So again, we have some options here. We could bring this down underneath. I think for me, I like how this is looking a little bit softer. I am gonna take some of that same eyeshadow from earlier, just a tiny bit on my number 3 brush, my pencil brush, and just ever so slightly come right down underneath here and just smoke out the outside just a hair more. I don't want it to be too dramatic, but I just want to add just the tiniest bit here. This is actually a really nice look, I think. Now I will say too that gel is also how I do 95% of my graphic liner looks. So more editorial styles, more edgy if you want to do something a bit different. So I'm gonna do something kind of funky on this side just so you can see the ease of the product, like how easy it is or isn't to work with. And like I said, I also like that I can clean up so quickly with the fast response. It just always has worked really nicely for me. So on this side, I'm going to come up just a little higher to the outside. I'm gonna pretend like I'm going to Beyonce's concert, which just happened and I did not go. I'm gonna come right out here and then I'm just gonna follow. The shape of my obviously not beginner necessarily, but I just wanted you guys to see how easy this gel cream is to work with and all of the things that you can do with the product as well, because we could also make this a really bold, really graphic, edgy look with pretty minimal effort. And I could fill in this whole area as well. I do looks like this a lot for editorial and photo shoots, not so much for every day, but if you had a concert or a Halloween look or something along these lines, the gel is just really easy to manipulate. So again, if say I wanted more of a point here, I can come back in with that fast response. Make sure I coat this brush and just really cut that. And just make it super sharp. I got a little too much on the brush that time. This is actually not a great shape for my eye. This is really hard to do. I did this looking down and not straight ahead, and so this is kind of awkward, but you guys get the idea of what you can do with the product, and that's the main thing. So you can play around with this and see how dramatic or undramatic you'd like to go. And while you do that, I'm gonna clean this up and show you liquid liner. So I just wanted to show you one more time how easily that Bioderma Remover really does get any trace of any eye makeup right off the eye, and it's really, really gentle. I can't stress that enough. So highly recommend, and again, definitely not sponsored. So before I took this gel eyeliner all the way off, I just wanted to show you how natural the Dipbrown color from MAC can be and why this is such a good everyday liner and a staple both in my kit and for myself. When I'm using the Dipbrow, I usually just start same as before, just right along my lash line. You can see it's pretty dark. It's not a light brown, but it's much, much more neutral than Blacktrack is. So just taking it all the way across. Get this a little thinner. And these are really blendable and creamy as well. So if you wanted to do a more smoky look or smoke out the eyeliner, these gels are great for that. They're really easy to work with. So I'm just gonna put it up here for you. I want just the tiniest flick. Kind of similar to earlier what we did between the two shadow sides. So it's a great sort of a micro liner for everyday wear. It's just a bit softer. So obviously the more dramatic version here with this eye, and very soft everyday, but still dramatic. So if you want a little punch, something extra, you don't want to go too crazy. Or also if you have light eyes. I mean, I think a lot of times people who are very fair with blue eyes, light green eyes, sometimes the black eyeliner just looks so much more dramatic than you even intend for it to. So this soft brown is a really, really great alternative to the black, just as another simple daily wear alternative. So I'm gonna go on here and put on a little mascara with both of these looks just so you can see what they look like as a more finished look. I'm just gonna do the top lash. I'm gonna just focus on the outer corner of my lash for this side because I kept this as a softer look. And that's a great way too with your mascara to kind of play around and just, you know, I'm kind of forcing the lash out with the direction of my brush. And I'm not putting much on my inner lashes just to keep it a bit softer and more natural. And on this side, we're gonna do a couple of coats because this is a more dramatic look. If you watched my most recent tutorial, you've definitely heard me talk about Tarantulash. I've been raving about this mascara for weeks now. It is so good, you guys, so good. And I have pretty long lashes, not the thickest, but pretty long. And so I have trouble a lot of the times with my mascara transferring up onto my lid or on my lower lash line during the day. And this stuff does not budge. This is part of Joe Baker's new line, Bakeup Beauty with Grayscale Stick. Highly recommend this stuff. So you can see really well, I hope at least that you can see what this has done. So on this side, I've kind of forced my lash out a little and I didn't focus as much on the inner corner just to keep this as soft as possible to show you the difference with mascara between just this really soft, subtle brown flick of a liner and then the obviously more dramatic Blacktrack liner on this side with a full lash and 2 coats of mascara. So you can see right there what that's doing, and hopefully you can see the difference in my eyes and you can choose for yourself what you like better. So last but not least, I'm going to take these off and then I'm going to show you my favorite liquid liners. I really want to show you the kinds of liquid liner first that I don't recommend. Not that there is anything wrong with these, but in my opinion, for newbies to eyeliner especially, this, not necessarily NYX, but this style of eyeliner, in my opinion, is very difficult. You can see the applicator here. I'm going to just do a little on my hand. is very difficult, in my opinion, to master because of the way that you have to hold this brush, because you can't get a handle on this, for me, the same way that I can with a liquid or a pen. So I like the formula. These are fine. But even in my professional kit, when I do use these liners, I take a bit out onto a palette and I apply it with a brush. So just my 2 cents. If it were me and I was struggling with my eyeliner, I would not use that kind of an eyeliner or this kind, which is essentially, this is the Anastasia version, essentially the same thing. It's just a fatter tip. So I don't know, again, why you would want such a, I'm doing this from a really awkward angle, but you can even see there, it's more difficult with these to control. So if you really like the formula of one of these style pens and you're having trouble getting your eyeliner to look the way you want it to look, I just recommend taking a little bit of this out on a palette or the back of your hand, getting yourself a fine tipped brush like what we used for the gel liner, and just going at it with a brush. It's just easier to control, in my opinion, guys. But today I'm going to show you how to apply the liner with an eyeliner pen. And we are going to use the NYX Epic Ink Liner pen, which I really, really love. This one is a similar tip, but it's more of like a felt tip marker. And these, again, this is just my opinion, these are much easier to control. I'm going to use the NYX pen today. I also really love the Stila liquid liner pen, and Kat Von D makes a great waterproof one as well. I'm just out of the other two, so this is what I have. And this is by far my favorite pen liner drugstore formula by far, by a mile. So here we go. So same as before, I've got my mascara on now, so I hope it's not too difficult to see. It's actually gonna be a little harder for me to do with mascara on. You definitely only wanna do your liquid liner before you put your mascara on. So let me just see if this is even possible or if I'm gonna have to refilm this whole section. So same thing, we're keeping the eye open. I'm looking straight ahead and I'm just, from the bottom line again, I'm sketching out a wing, just getting that shape right. I'm taking it right there to, I got a little heavier than I want under here. It's okay, I'm gonna be able to buff that out, but it's a great way to show you guys that it is already set. I thought I would be able to just smudge that a little with this Q-tip, but barely anything is coming off because this stuff is so waterproof. So I will say that as a fair warning, when you're using these, you have to work quickly, and they're not quite as easy to correct as with the gel eyeliner, but you'll see they look a bit more dramatic. So sketched out our line, same thing. I'm gonna just, I can't talk and do this, but I'm gonna come back in with a straight line and connect this. This is really hard with this mascara because this is a really thick mascara. But same as we did before with this, with these pens, I'm gonna just connect it. Connecting our line. So when I'm using the pen, I really like to try and just use it almost like a stamp. So if you can, when you're looking down, you're just gonna lay the pen on its side and just go in one step at a time all the way to the center there. Part of these bits that are getting messed up are my lashes. So again, sorry, should have taken the mascara off, but you can see already what that looks like and how much blacker it is than the gel. So this is definitely more dramatic. And I even sometimes, for people, if you're new and you're experimenting with all these, you can use these as sort of little cheat sheets. So you could start with an eyeshadow and get your shape sketched out and then come in with a pen over the top to darken it up. Same with a gel. I did a tutorial last week in a short for Bakeup Beauty, which I can link below, where I used Joe Baker's gel pen liner, which is a great pencil liner. It's very, very fine tip, which I really love when I'm doing a simple liner. I didn't use it today because I don't love it for tight lining. Because it's so small, it's a little too hard to get into the waterline or to do a tight line with. And it's because it is so fine, it just takes a lot of work to build up a wing. It's great for a natural, softer wing. But I used it in a short earlier this week for Bakeup Beauty, which I can link in the description below so you can see how that pencil goes on. But after I did the look, I decided that I actually wanted a wing, and I added the wing on with this pen. So you can mix and match these styles and techniques and just find what works for you. So this is my fast response, same stuff I used with the gel. And just clean up that point because I want it to be really hard. Same there. Bond's eye cream, you guys, is kind of just like a magic eraser. It really does just wipe everything clean. Now it will take the makeup off underneath, so that's why I've been going back in with the concealer just to course correct. But you get a lot of options for eyeliner after we're done here. So I can't do an eyeliner tutorial for you guys and not show you a little bit about the fox eye trend. I think that's slightly controversial to say now. I don't know what we're calling it. But basically, it's where you're trying to accentuate the almond shape of your eye and raise the outer corner and change the look of the shape of your eye. And the main way that people are doing this is by lining this inside corner. Just the tiniest little wing, tiny little fleck. So I'm going to try my best to do this for you guys on camera, but I can make no promises because this is hard enough to do without trying to film. So we shall see. But basically, the only way that I can do it is with a pen liner like this. And the same as before, I'm just looking in and slightly sketching in, oh so gently. Here, just connecting that. And then I'm gonna take it down below as well. This one, honestly, you guys, just takes a lot of practice to get exactly how you want it and how dramatic you want this to be. But the main thing to remember when doing this is just you want to keep a super light hand, because if you go too far, it's really hard to undo this. You can see the difference in what that does to the shape of my eye. So I want to take with my eyeshadow brush from before, my number 3, where is she? So I'm gonna go in here and just do what we did before. Accentuate underneath a little, just with eyeshadow to connect all of this. And since we're really going for this look, I probably would lighten my waterline, so I'm just going to show you that as well. Just right on the inside here. This is actually a really great example of this because I have nothing but mascara on this eye and all of the eyeliner on this eye. So this is the NYX Epic Ink Liner pen, and we've just taken it in on the inner corner just enough to make that tiny point. I could go a little bigger here. Maybe I will, just for dramatic effect so you can see. There we go. You can see what this does to the overall shape of my eye from the side with all of the liner to my side with just mascara. Ooh, nice. So I'm gonna do this other eye really quick and then come back. And here's the finished look. Thanks for tuning in and sticking around all the way to the end with me. Hopefully you learned something new or picked up a couple of tricks along the way. If you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe and leave me a comment down below and let me know what you liked, what you didn't like, and what you'd like to learn more of. Make sure to stay tuned coming up in the next couple of weeks, because as we head into spooky season, I will be dropping a couple of Halloween inspired looks coming up in the next few weeks. So make sure to check those out, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.